Hi everyone, I'm Shelly from There's No Place Like Home at redheadmommy.wordpress.com. Today I decided that I was going to do another video for my Notebooking 101 series. And that is Notebooking 101, What About High School? And I think that a lot of people aren't sure about whether or not their high schoolers can do notebooking. A lot of people tend to think that it is something that is better suited for younger children or even for like middle schoolers. But a lot of times people think that once their children have reached the high school age, they've outgrown it. And the fact is that is so not the case. Notebooking is an awesome resource even for high schoolers. And I even have to admit that I, as an adult, picked up a Moleskine journal for myself, and I do notebooking on my own, copying quotes that I like, or writing down ideas that I have, just writing down story ideas. So this is something that can be done at any age. So I really want to reiterate that to you, that this can be done at any age. And I'm just going to go over some little tweaks that you might need to make in it as your kids do get older. Now, the first thing that I really want to point out to you is that I have said in so many of my other notebooking videos that when they are notebooking, especially with their interest-led notebooks, I am really more concerned with content than I am with writing mechanics and grammar. And that still holds true for high school. I feel, especially with the interest-led notebooks, which if you're not sure what they are, I will leave links to my notebooking playlist in the description box below, because I've done videos on so many different types of notebooks. So I might be mentioning some here that you're not sure what they are. So they will all be on that playlist. So if you want to either watch some of those first, or you can go back after that just to make sure what I was talking about. But anyway, going back to the interest-led notebooks, I still completely believe that in high school, when your kids are doing interest-led notebooks on topics that they themselves have chosen, I think it is so important that you do not go in there with a red pen and mark up all of their hard work. Those notebooks, the interest-led notebooks, are still all about getting your kids to write good content. However, since they are getting older, it is perfectly fine for you to begin pointing out things that they do need to correct, such as if you see that they are missing commas, if you see that there is a misplaced semicolon, if you see that they should have used quotation marks or a capital letter, anything that you see at this age, I would completely feel comfortable pointing out, because the thing is that by this point in time, especially if you've been doing notebooking with your kids for a while, they should be used to it. They should now understand what it's all about. And they should also probably understand that once they get older, they aren't going to learn how to do things unless you yourself are explaining some things to them that they might be missing. So yes, definitely still let them write for content, but it is okay for you to start pointing out things that need to be corrected without going in there with a red pen. And that is something that I really wanted to point out before I get into the rest of the things. And I'm just going to go over a few of the different types of notebooks that you could use with your high schoolers. You can honestly use any of the notebooks that I have talked about in the past. You can use those with your high schoolers, definitely. But there are a few that I'm going to highlight today that I have used with my own high schoolers. So I have experience in how well they learned from them. So I just want to point out some of the things that we do, or some things that you might choose to do if you decide to do these with your kids. So the first is copywork. And again, I know that a lot of parents believe that copywork is something that should be done for younger children. But the fact is that a lot of older kids like to do copywork too. And I actually didn't understand this at first when my oldest, well, she's not my oldest daughter, but she's my oldest homeschooler right now. So she's 16. And when she started high school, I told her that she was not going to do the copywork anymore and that she was going to do daily grams instead. But she actually asked me if she could continue to do copywork because she really enjoyed it. And so after mulling it over a bit, I decided that what I'm going to do with her, and what I have been doing with her, is just letting her alternate. One day she does daily grams and one day she does copywork. And I have found that that is actually a great combination, because choosing a textbook like Dailygrams, that book only takes between 5 and 10 minutes a day. I honestly wish that I actually had it right here with me so that I could show you what the pages look like. But my daughter, she has it up in her bedroom and she's not home, and I didn't want to go digging through her stuff because, well, I did. I started looking through it and I like knocked over a bunch of her makeup. So yeah, no, I'm not going to go looking through her stuff while she's not here. But anyway, Dailygrams is really, it's almost like a grammar review. And even though it's considered a grammar review, you can definitely use that even if you have not done grammar with your kids before, because they are very simple. And if your kids don't understand something, you can always explain it to them, and the answers are right in the back of the book. But the reason that I found that doing the copy work and the grammar is a great combination is because when they are doing the Dailygrams, they are learning all of those writing mechanics. You know, they are learning how to combine multiple sentences. They are learning what different parts of speech are called. They are learning about proper punctuation. But what I noticed, even from my own, not just high school years, but all of my years in school, and what I've noticed from when my other kids used to do grammar curriculum, is that even though they may be able to understand how to do these things on the worksheet itself, when it comes to actual writing, it doesn't always transfer over. So what I found was that learning these skills in Dailygrams, and then on the other days doing copy work, she is seeing what it looks like in real writing, not in a workbook, in real writing. So like my other kids, my 16-year-old, as of right now, is doing Light in the Attic. And my 14-year-old is also, actually, I think she's doing Runny Babbit right now. But that is such a great tool for you to teach your older kids, your teenagers, grammar, writing mechanics, everything that you really want them to learn, especially if they have plans on going to college. It's just a great supplement. One day of grammar and the next day of copy work, just so that they can see what it looks like in actual writing. So that's one idea. Now, another idea is a writing prompt journal. Now, I have actually seen notebooking pages online for free that have writing pages. So you could make up your own binder of writing prompts for your teenager. Or alternately, you could go to a place even like Five Below. I don't know if you have any stores like Five Below near you. Five Below is a store where everything costs $5 or less. And I actually found a book there of writing prompts for my 16-year-old. And what I found is that I really like the writing prompt journals for older kids especially. Now, you could definitely use them with younger kids too. But with teenagers, I found that these writing prompts are great ways for them to gain critical thinking skills, depending on what those questions are. Help them to work on those critical thinking skills. It helps them to work on their character, again, depending on what the questions are about. And it can also really help them to focus on their creativity. I think that so often homeschooling parents, and not just homeschooling parents, I think that a lot of times teachers and other people, they see high school as a time for kids to be writing research papers and term papers, and they kind of push those creative writing skills to the wayside. But the fact is that it is really a great skill for your kids to have, and it is also a wonderful resource for kids who already do like doing creative writing. It's a great way for them to actually do something that they enjoy and to just get some extra work on it. And again, I just want to point out that creative writing is as important as research-based writing. And the reason that I'm so passionate about that is because our first year of homeschooling, when my oldest son, who is now 25, when he went for his evaluation, at that time, Pennsylvania did not have evaluator signed diplomas that were on par with regular high school diplomas. We had to go through an accredited homeschool agency. So at that time, we were going through an accredited homeschool agency, and one of the requirements was that your high schoolers had to write a 10-page paper per year. And it could be any type of writing at all, but they had to write 10 pages or 2,500 words. And there were other writings they had to do on top of it, but the big one was the 10-page one. So my son, who has always been all about writing stories and writing fiction, he wrote this really good 10-page story that he really got into. And when we took it to his evaluator, she like skimmed through it, and then she said, okay, just make sure that next year he does, like a different type of paper, like research or, a term paper. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, that completely discouraged him. And here he is now. I mentioned that he's 25. He still likes to write. He wants to be a writer. Right now he's outlining different story ideas that he has for an entire series. So don't ever discount one type of writing as not being as important as another, because you just need to remember that all people are created differently. So this is one aspect that you're going to find. Some people like to write, nonfiction. Some people like to write fiction. I like to write narrative style writing and persuasive writing. And, I'm not saying that you should never have your kids do different types of writing. But again, don't discount creative writing. It is just as important. So that actually brings us to interest-led notebooking, which I did mention a little bit earlier. And, with interest-led notebooking, I think that it is a great way for them to actually really develop those research skills. With interest-led notebooking, what they do is they pick out a topic that they themselves choose, something that they are passionate about. And it can be anything. And the reason that I say anything and that you're not giving them something to write about is because if you are going to get your kids passionate about learning, passionate about researching, passionate about writing, you really do want to let them have a topic that they themselves can call their own. So when it comes to this interest-led notebooking, again, as I mentioned earlier that you just want to expect higher quality work from your high schoolers, same thing goes there. Because while younger children and middle schoolers also can do interest-led notebooking, high school age is around the time that you really do, again, want to make sure that they are including a lot of details, that they are writing all different styles, that they are really deeply researching the topic that they want. And the idea of the interest-led notebook at this age especially is almost for them to create their own comprehensive field guide, for them to become experts on a certain topic. And then if they actually really focus on it and do an excellent job, this is something that could even be polished and made into a book. And it's also something that can be looked back on in the future, not just as nostalgia, but maybe even as a reference, depending on how deeply they went into a certain topic. And, I just want you as examples to think about, like Leonardo da Vinci's notebook, if you're familiar with those. He wasn't just an artist. He came up with all different kinds of scientific inventions, and he kept an entire journal of all of his ideas. Or if you've seen the Indiana Jones movies, his father kept a little notebook of all of his notes that he took while he was out in the field doing archaeology. And this is what I'm talking about. This is something that I think is an excellent tool to teach your high schoolers so that they can learn not only how to research, but how to keep everything together and in a place that will be easy for them to go back to any time that they would need it. And also, I have to say that if they choose to go on to college, having notebooks like that, depending on what they need to write about in college, that could be a great starting point for them to begin these papers that they have to write in college. So that is another idea that you could use for these notebooks. Did I talk about everything that I wanted to today? I really think that I did. So again, I just wanted to remind you that I will include my notebooking playlist down below, because if you don't understand some of the notebooks that I made reference to here, you can always go there and you can search through my notebooking videos and see the ones that you want to watch. But yes, notebooking can be done through high school. It's not something like lap booking. I think that a lot of times people look at it as lap booking. Lap booking, I think, definitely is something that a child can outgrow because it's more hands-on cutting and pasting and those sorts of things. Notebooking is about writing. One more thing I just remembered, and I have mentioned this in the past, letting them notebook through their textbooks. If you are textbook learners, one great way to get them to remember things better, because remember, in homeschool, it's not about teaching to the test. It is about actual genuine learning. So letting them notebook through their textbooks is a great way to get them to retain that learning better. Because what happens if you let them do the questions, or if you ask them to do the questions at the end of the chapter and the vocabulary, a lot of times it's kind of just like, read the question, flip back, find the answer, write it down, and then forget about it or until it's time for the test. Whereas if you have your teenager notebook through the textbook, they are actually pulling out pieces that really interest them, things that are going to stand out to them. My cat keeps walking across the table. She's driving me crazy. They do it every time I make my videos. Anyways, like it's their playtime. But anyway, yeah, so they're pulling out actual genuine pieces of the chapter that are holding their interest, things that they will remember. I just want you to remember that, because a lot of times what we as adults who went to just traditional schools, a lot of times what we do remember from school is just trivial things that we memorized that kind of hung out in our heads and really haven't made much of a difference in our lives as adults. So yes, notebooking through textbooks is definitely another idea that you could use for your high schoolers. So anyway, that's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one down below. I will answer your questions. Sometimes it takes a little bit because I only actually have time about once a week to answer questions, but I will answer it eventually. And if you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page, I will include a link for that also in the description box below. And I hope you have a great day.